Welcome to Music and Mind Live. I'm with you today from my husband's office because we lost our internet yesterday at home. Today's program focuses on music therapy, the evidence-based use of music interventions in healthcare. It's been used for centuries. We opera lovers know Orpheus well, for instance, and music has been used recently during the pandemic and protests against systemic racism to bring us together and to strengthen our resolve. Doses of music were recommended to patients in Mozart's time, but our current board-certified version began after World Wars I and II in an effort to treat war-related emotional and physical trauma. Now therapists treat a wide range of conditions. Dr. Wendy McGee and therapist Tom Schweitzer will enlighten us today. Before we begin this episode, I have a special announcement. In my ongoing effort to support great work at the intersection of arts and health, I want to hear about people and programs that you admire or work you are doing yourself, whether you're a researcher, therapist, or artist. Please send me a short video telling us about it in your own words. I'll share some of these videos on the webinar. Watch my Facebook page for more details. Our guest today, Dr. Wendy McGee, is professor of music therapy at Temple University. For over 30 years, she has practiced as a music therapy clinician, researcher, and trainer, with a focus on neurological rehabilitation, neurodegenerative illness, stroke, and traumatic brain injury. Her research collaborations span 5 continents and include a broad array of publications. She is the recipient of several research awards from the UK and USA and former chair of the British Society for Music Therapy. Tom Schweitzer is the co-founder of A Place to Be Music Therapy in Northern Virginia. Tom's been a music therapist and advocate for 10 years with a graduate certification from Shenandoah University, where he is now an adjunct professor, and a Master of Music Therapy from Berklee College of Music. He's been working on a performance-based approach to music therapy with a new musical such as A Will to Survive, a rock opera about teen suicide, which premiered in 2017 at the Kennedy Center. He's featured in the upcoming documentary Music Got Me Here about his work with Forrest Allen. Here's a clip from A Will to Survive. Students rush the stage when they see this piece, and we'll learn more from Tom later about this work.
Be the kind of person on the other end, the kind of friend, someone who will listen and won't retreat from me.
A lot of parents say that they wish they would have known. We did know that he was struggling with depression and anxiety, but we had no idea that it could end like this.
Someone who won't judge my life. Together we can start a fight, fighting for a thread to hold on to.
I've got a will to survive, a will to survive, a will to survive. This freaking confusing life. A will to survive, a will to survive, a will to survive.
This is a powerful piece. I was lucky to see it. A reminder to please submit your questions in the comments section for those of you watching on Facebook. We'll answer some of them at the end of the interview, and please do tell us your name and where you're from. So let's welcome Dr. Wendy McGee. Wendy, for those in the audience who haven't had experience with a music therapist, can you tell us more about what a music therapist does and what it takes to become one?
Sure, thanks, Renee. So music therapy is the use of personalized music experiences that have been developed by a credentialed professional who's been trained in using music interventions to improve health and well-being of the client, patient, consumer. I'm going to use the word client and patient interchangeably as I'm talking about this. So first of all, we assess the client for for both their strengths, but also their needs, And then we determine a treatment which is drawn from a range of possible methods that involves creating music, playing music together using instruments or songwriting, singing together, moving to music, or listening to music. And through involvement in these music interventions, the client's abilities are strengthened. And then we're looking for those new strengths to transfer to other areas of the client's lives. Um, and as the patient progresses through treatment, the music therapist is involved in evaluating their progress. And at discharge, we're looking at measuring the outcomes. What was the outcome of music therapy as compared to those original goals that we set at the start? So the interventions that we choose are influenced by evidence, and evidence is both research but also patient perspective and their preference, what they want to do and what they want to be involved with. And when we discharge the person from music therapy, we're looking to um, see what insights they have into how they can integrate music into their life to maintain the health changes that they've gained, as well as to maintain their general health and well-being.
And one thing that people ask me a lot is what kind of music? This is preference based. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and I think that's the question I get asked the most at dinner parties. Which music is most beneficial, Beethoven or Mozart? Now, it's not it's not quite that simple. So, patient preference might be influenced. I mean, patient preference, we're talking there about, do they want to be actively involved in playing instruments? Would they rather be singing? Is it songwriting? And often it's really influenced by what their particular needs are. So if we're working on communication and voice production, we're really going to be looking at singing. But then they still might have preference over which experiences they want to be involved with more than others. But I would just say that it's not a matter of playing music to somebody and seeing a result from Mozart or Beethoven. So we're not using music in that way.
And it's in fact the preferences, doesn't it have to do something to do with your teen years, your early 20s, that there is a part of life in which music is very much embedded in our psyche?
Yeah, across the life. And this sort of touches on the whole cognition of music because music stimulates many memories, both long-term memories that we might have difficulty retrieving other ways. So this is very beneficial for working with people with dementia, but even in terms of our own emotional experience of music, where when we hear a piece of music, it's drawing up, we can pinpoint a specific moment in time, an experience, a place, a feeling, a smell, the people we were with, a relationship. So this is all really important in terms of what music we might use. And a little take-home message here is that one of the things that a lot of the research studies get wrong is that they don't include patient-preferred music. So that's a really important part of the work.
So, why music? So, we've got physical and occupational therapy that's already covered. Why is music effective, and is it covered by insurance in the US?
Sure. So there's a few really good basic science reasons for why music. So first of all, neurologically, music is a hotline, has a hotline to the emotions. So when we listen to music, it actually activates regions of the brain that are associated with motivation, reward, arousal, and also areas that are involved with other euphoria inducing stimuli such as food and sex and drugs of abuse such as opioids and cocaine. So this suggests that music actually has a biological role in human functioning, but also that it's contributed to an evolutionary, a survival part of the human condition by recruiting these really important parts of the brain. So all of this suggests that music is really important in terms of addressing emotional well-being. Now, on top of that, we know that music is a cross-cultural phenomenon. It exists in all society, and often music making is done in groups. So it's something that we do, we relate to other people. We make music synchronously with other people. So this also provides the basis for saying that music therapy is very useful for working on relationships, working on interaction with others, and very important in terms of both these two factors, psychosocial and emotional. but also music gets us moving. So just listening to music starts activating the areas of the brain involved with motor responses.
Huh.
And there's a very primitive hardwiring in the brain where we have the auditory signal come into the brain and it just kicks down into the motor system. And this is a process called entrainment, which we know because we know we like to exercise to music, we like to jog to music, we love to dance to music. It's hard not to get our toes tapping when we listen to music. So music gets us moving. And this is very useful if we're working with people who have movement disorders, either from interruptions to health or possibly people who are born with motor disorders, either gross motor or also fine motor. But music also boosts cognition. Music is an intrinsic part of human development. If we think about, I mean, nobody would dream not using some elements of music with their child's development. It really assists with learning, but not just in terms of normal child development, but also for relearning following some interruptions to health. And it's very helpful in terms of arousal, attention, executive functionings, which involve planning and carrying out a complex set of sequence of tasks. So music is very important in terms of cognition, very helpful in terms of therapy in that basis.
So you started, I believe you worked for 25 years in brain injury rehabilitation. Can you tell us a little bit about your work with Creative Forces, what Creative Forces is and what the initiative does?
Sure. So Creative Forces is a partnership between the National Endowments for the Arts, the US Department of Defense, and also the Veterans Affairs. And my collaboration with them has been involved on a technical working group towards their clinical research program. But most excitingly and very serendipitously, just before the whole of the pandemic, we had submitted a manuscript for publication on the work that Creative Forces has been doing using telehealth to deliver their arts therapies, and including music therapy, to all of their populations. So Rebecca Vaudrey is the head of the music therapy lead for Creative Forces, and she's the lead author of the article. And so luckily, we actually have that coming out in print any day now on telehealth, on music therapy using telehealth with a range of military populations. And although that's just describing the program, certainly what it found was that even through telehealth, music therapy can assist with feelings of depression, feelings of anxiety, and also pain.
Oh, thank you. And I want to be clear because I did not understand this when I was introduced to this sector in this world, is that volunteer musicians or performing groups that are in a healthcare setting are in a different category. The category, we call it music medicine, which is different than the work that Wendy McGee does as a board certified music therapist. We are offering comfort, we're providing an environment that is more welcoming to families and to patients and also to all the people who are working in healthcare. It's valuable, but it's quite different than what a board certified music therapist does. So one last question: in this time of COVID-19, how are therapists responding, and will this create a shift that will change the field?
Sure. And my colleagues very kindly have sent me some pictures of what's happening during the times of COVID. And really, we're looking at a whole change of service delivery during this time because of the isolation and because of the risk to both patient health as well as client health. So, can we move to the next slide, please, Jason? So the challenge for music therapists, the healthcare professionals, including music therapists, has been how do we ensure the safety of the patient, but also the safety of the professional? And what we found with music therapists is that usually we're offering music therapy to individuals or maybe to groups, but suddenly we've moved away from just serving the patient, working with the patient. We're now thinking about the staff, we're thinking about the whole care setting, we're thinking about the community. So you'll find music therapists doing things like singing song of the day over the PA system of the hospital, or maybe singing at the entrance when the staff change shifts to welcome them in and to sign them off at the end of the day as some sort of musical reward. So we're seeing a much more public face of music therapy, something that's often called either environmental music therapy or community music therapy, because this is what's being demanded in these times. Can we have the next slide, please, Jason? Also, we found that music therapists have needed to change what they do, which is also how they look when they're delivering their interventions, particularly because we don't have a lot of evidence about the risk of singing in terms of passing on, transmitting COVID. But what we know is that singing certainly transmits smaller droplets, aerosol droplets, and they last longer in the air. So music therapists are having to wear masks. Do you want to move just to the next slide, Jason? Sometimes they're using other distancing measures like playing through windows or sitting at the door of a patient's room playing there. Should we go on to the next slide as well? Or possibly playing outside and just physically distanced from patients. So we're seeing that the ways music therapy is being delivered is really quite different. Using hallways, using entrances, using larger spaces. And let's move on to the next slide as well, Jason. And like all other health professionals, we've had to make this very sudden shift to telehealth with very little guidance about how we should do it, what are the benefits to patients, what are the risks to patients, is there a change in patient outcomes? So with people are being very creative in terms of what they're delivering. Let's move to the next slide, actually. And it's brought up issues about equality as well. Do the patients we're working with, do they have access to the equipment? Do they have the knowledge of how to use the equipment? So are there drawbacks as well as potentials for working with patients? And the last slide is another example from a colleague of, oh yes, actually one more slide, of a colleague working with a virtual choir. So using Zoom, which we've seen many examples of this. I mean, we've seen the community at large. You know, we heard stories from Italy, first of all, and then New York about people coming out and singing on their balconies together. We know that music brings us together.
And how do we find a music therapist?
So just last slide, Jason. I know that we're speaking to a larger audience today than just in the US. I've just put up this slide here for finding a music therapist in the USA. There's the national organization that serves the general public as well as professionals and students, the American Music Therapy Association. There's a Find a Therapist tool on their website. You can also call the office, email the office. And what I'd like to offer for colleagues from other countries, or for people from other countries who are tuning in, is that most countries have a national organization for music therapy. So reach out to them. Many of them have Find a Music Therapist. And there's also a World Federation Music Therapy website to find some more information from.
Thank you so much, Wendy. Thank you. Absolutely wonderful. And I want to bring on Tom Schweitzer, who never ceases to inspire me with his creative work as a therapist and performer. He's built his practice from nothing, from the beginning, to serve more than 400 families in Loudoun County. First, Tom, tell us about The Will to Survive, the clip that we saw earlier. I loved this show. I thought it was incredibly inspiring.
Thank you, Renee. And I'm very honored to be here with you tonight. So that was a clip from our rock musical, A Will to Survive, which was inspired by a call for some social action that we felt we had to do here in Loudoun County, Virginia, after we lost another young man. What's really special, young man due to suicide. What's really special about this piece is his actual mother starred in the rock opera, and of course with you, we were at the Kennedy Center, but we toured in Loudoun and Fauquier in Fairfax County and saw close to 60,000 students in the audiences. Yeah, so it was a really special time for all of us to kind of gather around and really put out a message that it's never too late.
Thank you. Thank you. It is worth seeing, absolutely, and worth bringing, frankly, to your high school, your local high schools and middle schools. So let's talk about Forrest Allen. You brought him to my attention a few years ago, and your work with him, enabling him to recover speech, is extraordinary. Intonation therapy. Please talk about this. His recovery is very moving, and tell us about the film Music Got Me Here.
Yeah. So you know, my work with Forrest Allen is the most profound experience I've ever had. So 9 years ago, it is now 9 years ago, he had a traumatic brain injury. He had a tragic accident snowboarding. and then I was called in as his music therapist. And I knew the family pretty well already, but I just had become a music therapist, so I was really scrambling to see what I could do to help this young man. Needless to say, we are 9 years later. Forrest is in college. Forrest is driving, and he's having a great life. We are way past, in the movie it says something like, oh, this is his 19th or 16th surgery. He's had way more than that. And so there's the documentary, Music Got Me Here, and very excited to announce that we can say it will be streamed on all of your main streaming services, hopefully this autumn, this fall. And yeah, I'm really excited and amazed that MGM Studios, we have signed on for our life option to be put into a Hollywood narrative film, which Forrest's family and myself we're amazed that is happening. But it's a movie and a story of hope. Forrest really still is my hero, and he shows you that when you are down, there is no way that you can't get up. And he is a powerful, powerful figure in my life now. Mm-hmm. And of course, music was one of the ways that helped him get to where he is today.
So tell us what you're doing now during the pandemic.
Yeah, so I'm doing a few things. We had a pivot like any other business. And we turned everything into teletherapy. So we have teletherapy going on with about 190 clients, families per week. It kept our music therapists very busy. And I think we have a little bit of a clip of what we have been doing with teletherapy. So.
Fantastic. So during the pandemic, I mean, I love the fact that you're doing teletherapy, and you have some amazing sort of examples of that. Music therapy, what can it offer to us right now in terms of recovery? One of the things that I find so horrendous is to understand that people are losing loved ones without being able to be with them in the hospital, and that is traumatic.
Well, yeah, as Wendy would say too, there are just so many possible domains you could work on with music therapy, but our main focus for the last 2 to 3 months has been anti-anxiety, redirection of depression, and so many people are isolated. And so for us as music therapists, that we can use music as a portal to not only help people feel they have a connection beyond their own home. And I will tell you, it is pretty hard on a two-dimensional screen, but that is the beauty of music, that even music through a screen can connect to another human being. So I would
so
say
important.
Mental health is what we're really focusing on at this point.
So what is the Land of Music?
So as we have been figuring out what are we going to do next, the Land of Music is a real-life and animated children's show that, I was like, what can I do? And there it is. And these are the characters. It is completely designed and created by our clients and by people who have grown up through A Place to Be. In fact, those characters right there are drawn by two amazing young ladies who have been with A Place to Be for a few years. And this show, it's called The Land of Music. It's really to help young children understand the COVID world that we live in today. What happens in this land is, of course, it is ran by this maestro, this great maestro named Maestro Sound, who he brings music to the land. And then one day, another maestro comes in, and his name is Maestro Silence. And when Maestro Silence comes into the Land of Music, silence is sort of like a virus. And so everybody in the land who produces music, they find that they can't anymore, and they have to stay in their homes, and they have to isolate and wear masks. So it's really, for us, we have the creativity around us and the resources to do that. So we really wanted to do something for the young children to help them process and also, educate, but also entertain during this time of COVID.
Is this something you'll be sharing with the public at large?
Yeah, so we are going to start it out with the YouTube channel, and we will premiere it on August 1st. So far, there are 8 episodes, and I'll tell you, for me, it's really fun to know that this is part of my life and part of my job. I very much miss seeing people, and I very much miss our clients and our patients. And so this way is one way we can get our clients and patients to take part in something bigger than themselves.
So I have to tell you in the audience that Tom has got one great idea after the other. So we're going to touch on several of these projects that he's working on right now. But he is a true visionary, and every time I talk with him, I'm inspired. So tell us now about Interlude.
So another response that, what can we do as music therapists and at a place to be our center? We are offering something called Interlude, which is for anybody in the nation that would like a music therapist to be with you. It's really a musical experience to help decrease anxiety, express yourself, relax, and a way for you to take an interlude, which interlude means taking that moment in between. And I think there are so many adults, especially parents out there, that have not been able to take that moment that they need. And so our therapists are coming together, and we are right now. There's a waiting list, and we're going to open up in August. And right there it is. And if anybody would like to join us, you can go to the website, you can sign up, and we'd love to be working with you.
Fantastic. I just, it's endless what you offer to all of us. It's extraordinary. So I got to see your one man show, Meatballs and Music.
Uh-huh.
And I loved it. So I just want to also explain that you don't come from the easiest childhood. You come from a very tough childhood. And you used that to create something extraordinary and to show people what love is. Please tell us about your show.
Well, thank you, Renee, and I thank you for coming to see it as well. I'm a person who I was saved by music when I was 8 years old. And not unlike many people who live in abusive childhoods and socioeconomic struggling. I lived in a small town. There was a church across the street. When I was 8 years old, I made the decision to cross the street. I was met by an amazing woman who I do enjoy playing. Her name is Erdine. She was a Sunday school teacher, and from that point on, she taught me music, and she taught me how to play the piano, and she allowed me to sing, and she really did save my life. So finally, I felt like our world really needs hope, and I thought, what a better way than to really tell my true story. And if it is helpful to anybody else out there that feels like you wake up every day and you don't know if you can make another day, that you can. So
Well,
thank you. Thank you. And
I
I
know
hope
I love it. I might be your biggest fan, actually. So I think you
I,
have something to share with us today. A new song, perhaps?
yeah, yes, I do. So this is, as music therapists, we have to do music therapy for ourselves. So when I woke up in the morning, those first few weeks, and I'm lost, I just went online to share music with people, and I would get comments on the side. And somebody who I do not know, they asked me, could I create a song if Winnie the Pooh was sitting next to Piglet, and Piglet asked, what is going on, and why can't I hug you, and why can't I touch you? What would Winnie the Pooh's response be? And so after I saw that comment, I went to the piano. So this is called There for You. I miss hugging you. I miss holding you. I miss all the things we used to do to pass the day away. I miss seeing you. I miss touching you. I miss you close to me. One day soon, I promise I'll be right next to you. When this whole thing is over and we've changed for the better, I'll be there for you. We'll walk in the park, we'll walk hand in hand, and when somebody sees us, we'll ask them to join us at the theater or the ballpark. You'll sit beside me. someday soon, I promise I'll be right next to you. When this whole thing is over and confusion is through, I'll be there for Until then, hold on. Until then, hold on. You walk out your door, you won't be afraid, 'cause I'll be out there waiting, waiting there for I'll be right there waiting for you.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. You know, that says it all. It's human connection. This is what we all need right now, what we all crave. I'm so grateful to you for writing that. So thank you, Wendy and Tom. I just want to ask you both, what would your hope be for the future of art therapy?
Yeah, it's a big one. You know, I would love to see, as a concept, I mean, there's going to be so many changes after this period for so many reasons. And you touched on the use of music to bring people together in terms of expressing very difficult feelings as well. You know, this is happening at a time when internationally funding for the arts is getting cut. We know that one of the terrible aftermaths of the pandemic has been that the arts have basically ceased to be practically. And I think I would love to see music being used more within our everyday being together. You know, that we understand, all of us understand in our everyday lives, every person understands that they can be using music as a way of being and sharing with other people, you know, feeling, being, and sharing with other people.
Like we just did. Thank
Yeah.
you. Tom, what's your thinking on that?
I think that the same, that I hope that music and the arts create a platform and a place where people are not afraid. And I think in the very beginning of what we were seeing with COVID and how we were inspired by, I still remember watching everybody singing in the balconies in Italy. And I think there could be something so cohesive and so connecting about it if we just, music is one way that we really can see something, feel something bigger, and also feel connected to other humans.
Let's look at our video on telehealth, and then we have a lot of questions. So we'll get to our questions now. Thank you.
If you open me pheasant, I'd rather have grouse. If you put me in a house, I would much prefer a flat. If you put me
We'll sing to those
Keep going.
For self-care is, I mean, I've been doing a lot of self-care, but I guess
Won't be turned around, and I'll keep this world from dragging me down. Gonna stand my ground, and I won't back down.
And they're the best kind of company. I get a little tired of them, but I wouldn't trade them for another family.
Loud! Here we go! I'm gonna turn it up. Play it loud, play it loud, play it ถามว่ามาม่ากับปูแล้วว่าจะโมเมสวา
So delightful. I always love meeting the children in your practice too. They're so great. So here are some questions. Debbie from Winnipeg asks if you ever have worked with a person who says that music doesn't move them or have no recall of any memory when I hear a certain piece of music or song. How do you handle that?
I would say that I haven't personally. I would say that if you did, then maybe that person is not, music therapy is not going to be the right intervention for that person. But I have worked with somebody who had amusia following a stroke. So this is a condition where rather than hearing music, it becomes a distorted noise. And this person had previously been a professional music critic, can you believe? And he was
Wow.
known for his particular skill in being really precise in terms of describing timbre and tone, the music. So, and we did all sorts of work with him, trying to sort of like we'd bring music into the environment gradually, and he'd say, "What's that noise?" It became noise. And what was important here was to be making recommendations about not taking him into music environments, not using music as a form of recreation for him.
Have you had that, Tom?
So not only one person who told me that he hated music so badly that he took out all the radios out of the cars he's ever had in his life. Uh, and so I found it to be a challenge, and I worked with him, and I kind of he wanted to know why he did not like music, and
Okay.
I'm really proud to say that like 2 years later he has an ex. Well, I can't say what he has a radio in his house that he listens to music. It goes back to a childhood trauma. He
Ah.
said that he had a horrible childhood, and when certain things were happening, his parents would turn the radio up very loud. And so, like if they were screaming and yelling in the house, they turn up the music, and I think he identified that. He projected that into his future.
So Judy asks, do either of you use singing bowls in your therapy work? So singing bowls, I've also seen crystals and crystal bowls being played. We had Deepak Chopra on last week, and there is a lot of music that's made specifically for meditation, for calming, and we'll have more sessions about this in the future. But have you either of you used these methods?
I have asked people who really know how to use a singing bowl to come in and work with our clients and our staff, but I have not. They're amazing instruments.
Yeah,
Yeah, very beautiful.
I've used them really just for their timbre. So when I've wanted something that's been very metallic and that rings for a long time. So it is one of the instruments we use in the coma work that I do, but not singing bowl technique. I don't claim to be a technical specialist.
I was in Vietnam last year on vacation, but maybe the one and only vacation, and I brought one home because I thought it was so beautiful. So this is from Chris from Chico, California. He's new to opera and classical music. They've helped him become more emotionally expressive, and he's found it cathartic in dealing with everything happening with COVID-19. So the question is, what can I do how can I keep from becoming overwhelmed?
Well, I think if he has a connection to opera, which and the reason that people love music theater and opera as well, and Renee, you know this very well, that it goes, if you're looking at the formula of performance on stage, and you go back to what we were thinking, if a character is acting, they have so much emotion, they don't know what to do with it, they sing, and then if they don't know what to do with that, they dance. And in opera, I think they just get bigger and more dramatic. But I would say keep listening.
Yeah, it's
Music.
emotional. It's highly emotional, this
Oh,
music. Absolutely. That's why people love it, I think.
absolutely. It's a way for you to release. And I would just there are amazing operas out there, and just keep on growing your repertoire.
So, Tom, Anne wants to know if you've published your song.
So I have a YouTube site. No, I have not published it. I have recorded, and they are welcome to either go to a place to be Facebook. It's on there, or you can go to the YouTube site. In fact, I have 7 songs right now during COVID, so I'm going to do something with them.
Well,
But
and
thank you
we'll
very
post
much.
that information too on my Facebook page so you can find it.
Great, thank
Pamela wants to know, what music therapy have you found is most useful in treating PTSD? So Wendy, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think, again, Tom gave such a great illustration before about the individual nature of trauma. I mean, what's really important is this type of work involves real skill, and this is what music therapists are trained in. So, really looking at the individual experience, exploring what the trauma is and what might re trigger that trauma, because we don't want to be bringing that into the music therapy session. So, again, it's not a matter of saying, oh, drumming is great for trauma, get it out. Singing is great for trauma. It's not a matter of, one thing fits all. What music therapists do is we really plan that individualized treatment, and we're going to look at um, particularly triggers and how we might keep somebody safe. I'm sure Tom has more to say.
Yeah, exactly that. I think that that is the beauty of what you said earlier, Wendy, preference. That when you're working with somebody with PI, I have had the honor of working with some vets. Not many, but the few I have worked with, their PTSD. And PTSD can come in many different forms. And for these gentlemen that I worked with, we used music with a playlist at night for relaxation, and also very common for PTSD, insomnia, and also very bad nightmares. And so we made a playlist. If there was a nightmare happening, that person woke up, they put the earbuds on, and it was music that made them feel that they could breathe. And music is also a beautiful way to breathe. And so there's phrasing, and if you teach a client, work with the client how to breathe through music, it can do wonders. So that's my background with PTSD.
So Janet asks, earworms. My mom has been hearing songs that seem as real as a radio playing nearby. We've read it usually happens to people with a musical background, which she does have. Should we be concerned?
This is a great question. And, there's actually research on this that I have to say I don't know the insides of the research. There's been quite a bit of research done in the UK from the field of music psychology about earworms. Tom, do you have anything to add there?
When a song gets stuck,
Yeah, so it's like
Yeah, yeah.
can't get out of your head.
I've suffered. I have definitely suffered from this.
oh, I'm sure you have.
Often, often.
But when you're in a performance, especially those, and that this is exactly, music can be very manipulative. That's why commercials sound a certain way and they stick in your head.
Right.
I when I get something stuck in my head, I have to go to an entire different genre. So if I was in a musical, I have to like listen to classical music and just change the genre completely.
That's actually a good suggestion. I'm going to try that next time. For me, it's never my music. It's always someone else's music in the show. Jason, do we have the video? Can we show the video from Music Got Me Here? Because we are just about out of time, but I would love to end on that.
He was a great snowboarder. Got a little careless and wasn't wearing his helmet, which he should have been.
His injury was catastrophic, and they told us they didn't expect him to wake up.
They were saying he may be so brain traumatized that he'll never speak again.
Your voice is still there. You just have to find it. I was desperate to find some way to keep him connected, and that's when I called Tom.
The first sign that we saw that music was affecting Forrest was just a little tiny move of the finger, like he was keeping rhythm. He was definitely connecting to music. Yes. It was melodic intonation and making sounds and hugging him and getting him to grunt.
I'm a believer in the scientific method, and I'm not a fan of anecdotal stories. This was one where he had been subjected to a large amount of standard therapies, and music therapy is what changed the game.
And up in your nose. That's my darling.
It's incredible.
Hi Renee, this is Forrest. I really appreciate you supporting our movie, Music Got Me Here. It means the world to me that someone of your talent will support us, and Tolliver would like to thank you as well. Tolliver, take a bow.
Definitely look for that film. I want to thank you so much, Dr. Wendy McGee and Tom Schweitzer, for joining me today. And we didn't talk about music intonation therapy, which takes advantage of the extraordinary plasticity of the brain. This is a favorite of mine because it enables people to regain speech through singing pathways. And that's exactly what helped Forrest regain his speech. Thank you so much. So please join us again next Tuesday at 5 p.m. via my Facebook page, Renée Fleming Music, or the Kennedy Center YouTube channel. Episodes will be available to view later, though. If you missed the live webinar, please share this with your friends so they can see this. To stay in the loop, sign up for the newsletter at my Facebook page or my website, reneefleming.com. And next Tuesday, we'll feature how and why to engage with music now. And this time, unlike any we've ever known, I have two fantastic guests to discuss why music matters urgently right now. Joining me will be Daniel Levitin, award-winning neuroscientist, musician, and author of 4 New York Times bestsellers, including This Is Your Brain on Music, and Grammy Award-winning musician, producer, educator, and author Victor Wooten, who incidentally made Rolling Stone magazine's list of the top 10 greatest bassists of all time. It's going to be an exciting episode, so tune in next week, and thank you.